Thanks for you.
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, a couple of minutes late. I don't know why it's taking. And I could see you were there, but it just wouldn't let me in. Let me let you in. How have you been since we last spoke?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Some happy smiley faces looking back at me. That's always a good sign.
No, we're no, we're good. We've had quite a lot of new things in the past period. I think the biggest triumph that we've had, we've had quite a few actually, but I'll try not to go on for ages like we did last time, but briefly, 8 out of the last 10 nights with Pluto, we haven't had any mess. The changes that we made were turning the thermostat down by 1 degree. I don't know if it's because it's colder, so he feels less inclined to get out of bed in the night, or he's kind of more buried in there in a deeper sleep next to Roland, or it's the actual noise of it going off, like we mentioned. But either way, we've been taking him for an evening walk between sort of 8:30 and 9. Sometimes he'll do some business on that, sometimes not. But if we follow the same recipe and do that, it seems to have a pretty good success rate. So that's really good. And we also, the other day, we were just setting off on our walk, and a guy that we know from down the road who has a little chihuahua that they're pretty friendly with was coming up, and he's quite a chatty guy. And Richard said, "Oh God, here we go," because we really want to be walking around with him when we're trying to train. So we sort of explained to him, we're doing training, we're not going to be chatting to you, we're focusing on the dogs. But he seemed quite insistent on trying to walk with us anyway, and understood that that's what we're doing. And actually, they had a brilliant walk with him. They were really, really well behaved. That's probably some of their best behaviour. They're not fussed about actually being there with him, and he can be quite vocal as well. But they were all really well behaved. And on that same walk, we walked past our neighbour with her black Labrador on the other side of the road. I had Pluto, and he was really he knew he was there, and he kept on looking, but every time I called him, he would give his focus back to me, and he went past without barking, without going completely mental. So that was really good. I don't know if you remember, we've told you about the passage where they always try and run down.
Yes.
So we've been through that quite a few times now, both directions. They generally seem to be worse in one direction when it's at the end of the walk rather than at the start. But we have been down a couple of times with it at the end. And to begin with, we had our backs facing towards the end of the passage, and so we were just like we did initially when we were first getting started inside, just waiting for the contact and just really slowing it down. And they were reluctant, but actually they're both doing really, really well down there now. And if we do it at the start of the walk, they barely take any more notice than anything else now, so that's really good. We also did, on another walk, we went past reasonably close, a woman who was not only pushing a pram, but also had a big golden retriever with her. Neither of them made a sound. That was very good. And we also took them to a different area when they haven't been out, that was in the car. We got a different car seat, and so we tried them in that. That went pretty well as well. Pluto was more settled than he had been, and on the way home he was absolutely knackered, so there wasn't a squeak out of him. And while we were actually there, it was difficult for them because there was so much. There was so many new sensory experiences, even though they have been there before. Haven't been for ages, obviously. There were loads of other dogs around, loads of smells, loads of things going on, birds, quite a few dogs off the lead as well. So it was quite difficult for us to actually get around where we wanted to without dogs coming over. And there was one particular woman who was a complete idiot. Like, with Rach saw a thing on your Instagram about stupid dog owners or something, and we have had quite a lot of that in this last couple of weeks. We just feel like the more we try and make it really obvious with our body language that we don't want to talk to you, we're not interested, people let their dogs come right over if they are on the lead, or they come and start talking to us, and it's just F off. But, so we had an idiot woman, like Rach said to him, can you just keep your dog away, because we're training them and they're scared. And she was like, "Oh, he's fine, he's fine.
He's friendly.
We won't be fine if Pluto bites his nose because he's so scared of him."
Yeah.
She was like, and then another woman who we're very familiar with, and she's a complete nut job. She's got this little Shih Tzu. The poor thing just gets dragged around by this woman.
Miles and miles.
And we saw her coming at the end of the road on the same side as we were walking. So we started to go in the road to cross over. As soon as we did that, she started to cross over. So we went back again, and then she started shouting us from the other side of the road. So we've had a lot of that as well. But that reminds me, actually, in that same area as well, there was another time where there were two bigger black dogs on the other side, and normally they would be, launching themselves across, having a bark, stopping in the tracks at the very least, and they walked past them completely fine as well. So mixed in with some not so good bits.
Mm-hmm.
There have been other bits where it's not owner's fault, and they have reacted to some dogs or some certain things. But on the whole, I think we've had a pretty positive time of it, and they've been doing really well.
Yeah. It really sounds good. And how are things with you, Rachel? Are they same with you? Are you getting the same response?
Yeah, the same response. I mean, on the walks, Pluto doesn't really listen to me much. He's more responsive to Tom. So I've been taking Roland more, and I know that's not the right thing to do, but Pluto just ignores me.
Okay.
I know that the first 10 minutes are difficult on the walk, but we swap over throughout the walk, and he just listens to Tom more. They listen to me in the house, and they listen to Tom outside.
Okay.
Been good.
Okay.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. It's not, if he's still very agitated by something, he still pulls regardless of who he's with, or still
Okay.
apart. He did, particularly yesterday, I noticed he was just even walking past a couple of people. I felt like he wouldn't have done anything if he'd been with me, but because he was with Rachel, almost, I don't know if he feels like he needs to protect her or he's not as confident with her. He barked at people coming the other way, which he hasn't done for a long time. So he does, certainly with Pluto. I think Roland's pretty happy either way, but Pluto does seem to be more trusting of me on the walks. But that's probably in part our fault, because I think I've probably been taking him a bit more than Roach has, and that's kind of reinforced it maybe.
Okay. So the reason that I ask that is because sometimes there is that split over, like your dog will do something for someone and not for the other, and sometimes it may be the way that we're holding ourselves as well. So sometimes it can be like, oh no, please don't kick off, please don't kick off, please don't kick off, kind of, oh, there's a dog coming, oh, and actually if you just kind of take a deep breath and go, right, come on then, let's go, and be really not harsh with them, but really assertive with them. So literally, come on, let's go, in a nice tone of voice. So you've got kind of quite a soft voice as well, which obviously I'm never going to get you to change your softness on your voice, but just being very clear with them. So come on, let's go. And then just start moving with them. So they're like, what? You're actually going somewhere? Oh, we better follow with you. We better come with you. And just tiny little tweaks, just so that they can go, oh, right, yeah, okay. Yeah, you know what you're doing, and you've got our back, and you're going to look after us. And that is probably all it is. It's probably just a case of, I mean, like you say, Tom, if you take him out more, then it's probably that he's just got used to the way that you're actually doing stuff with him. And it's just literally building up. But build that up slowly. It will come over time. But you sound like you're doing an amazing job. In terms of the stuff that they are responding to, is there any similarities? Is there any particular point during your walk, as in any particular length into your walk, or is it just literally as random seems to be?
I think we've noticed a couple of times where if something happens to set them off in the first couple of minutes, that kind of dictates the mood for the rest of the walk normally.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if we can get over that initial bit where we're walking off the bit of the estate that we're on, and then get into the walk, generally they're fine for the rest of it. I don't think we've noticed any consistency in what they might be barking at or getting by. Like yesterday, we saw this other black and tan sausage who's usually quite well behaved, and Pluto barked at him, which is, he's met him quite a few times before. I don't think he's ever barked at him before. He decided that he wanted to yesterday. It's
just when it suits them.
Yeah, it's all shapes and sizes really. I think on the whole, when we get it right in terms of using the distraction techniques correctly and for the right amount of time, I think on the whole they are really good at observing that. They're not completely calm and just sitting there looking up at us as they're nibbling on the treat. Wouldn't really expect them to be at this point because they're still just understanding what we want them to do, I suppose, in that situation. But yeah, I think on the whole, when we get it right, that's me.
Oh, it's you.
when we get it right, they do what we're asking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Just what I think of it. So Roland's been is not unwell. He's had a bit of a problem with his rear end.
Okay.
Over the weekend and this week.
His anal glands needed releases.
Okay.
I took him to the vet on Monday. She could only do one side, and the other side was really inflamed. So it's been bothering him quite a lot, and he was quite, certainly Monday and Tuesday, he was quite flat and not really his usual self. He was still happy on walks, but it was probably more passive than he might have been otherwise, just because he wasn't feeling that great. He seems a lot better today, and he's going back tomorrow for a checkup anyway, and hopefully be able to do the other one. But
I had to split them up a bit because Pluto kept going near his rear end, and Roland didn't like that, and Roland's been growling at him a lot and going to attack him, and luckily I've been there most of the time to take Roland out of the situation. But seems I don't know if it's going to be a problem going forward. Roland seems to be growling at Pluto quite a bit, and it's not just since he's had this problem with his anal glands. It's been occasionally. I don't even know what it's with. It's just they'll be playing, and Pluto will either hit Roland's private areas, or he'll get him and he's not comfortable and he'll just turn on him.
Okay.
It does seem like Pluto doesn't really learn from that. Like he doesn't take it as this isn't okay anymore, because Roland obviously makes a completely different noise to us, so we know straight away that something's not right and he's potentially about to snap at him. But it's like Pluto just doesn't recognise that at all. And certainly with when it's been a bit more like that the last few days, it's taken, well, basically 2 days for Pluto to actually realise that he needs to leave him alone a bit. He has got there eventually, but I think that was something that came up as a bit of a concern when we were seeing more of this kind of behaviour.
Okay, so like in terms of like just talking about the anal glands for the start of that bit. So with anal glands, if they are inflamed, they are going to be painful. There's no kind of two ways about that. So in terms of pain, so if there's any element of pain, then that can cause reactions when you're out on your walks, or it can do the complete opposite. So you can have complete silence, that they don't want to draw any attention to themselves. So they're like, yeah, I just carry on walking and you can't see me. Or you may get an increase of that reactivity because they don't want that dog to come anywhere near them because they know that they're poorly or they know that they're in pain. And then the interrelationship there. So again, because he knows he's in pain, or he feels a bit in pain, he feels a bit, not quite himself. It's a bit like if we've got toothache and it's there, but it's not constantly there. But it's enough pain for you to get irritable with somebody that's, trying to look in your mouth or whatever. And it's the same kind of principle. So if Pluto's kind of trying to sniff his back end and he's going, get away from me, and Pluto's not listening, and then it escalates between the pair of them. So you've done exactly the right thing in terms of separating them, making sure that they are separated as and when you can. And if there's anything particular that, like, if there's any particular toys that they're doing that over, then always make sure that there's more toys than dogs. So always make sure that there's like 3 toys, 4 toys, rather than like just one toy that one dog's got. And when they're being fed, it's always worth having them separated as well, just so that they've got their own space, so there isn't any kind of threatening stuff going on between either of them. So eating the food bowls, if they're facing each other, eating the food bowls, and then they can see each other's eyes. So just making sure they've got that space where they can feel comfortable to eat their own food as well. If that kind of starts manifesting anymore, then I would look at installing some stair gates so that you can have literally one side, one the other side, so that they can't really pest one another. Separate crates. It can sometimes get to that. I mean, if we're just talking kind of a bit of like loud, kind of growly, snappy, is he actually landing with any of the snapping, or is it just a very like loud?
No, he does. I've never seen him.
Is it kind of like all handbags at dawn?
Sorry, say that.
Is he ever actually? I've never seen him actually try and bite him. He just growls, doesn't he?
Well, no, yeah, he does go for him, but I get him in time because I'm normally there. I've had to like pick Roland. If I don't grab Roland, he'll go for him. Yeah, like Roland's body completely like tenses up. He's his eyes are a different shape. Even when I pick him up, he's still like, "Arr." I just have to take him to a different room and shut the door. Wait
Okay.
for him to calm down. I think he would go for him if I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yesterday when you're on the call.
Yesterday that was what I've experienced more, which is just he starts growling, but there's still
Right, no.
kind of. I thought it was more that I didn't
No,
realise that.
Roland's like not on top of like. I don't think on top of him's the right word, but Roland's dominant and he will get him, and that's why I have to pick him on. It's quite scary actually.
So what is he kind of like just standing over him, or?
Yeah, sort of, or yeah. Can't
Try and describe to me what he's doing.
To say like the playing and it gets a little bit too rough and Roland doesn't like it. I can't even describe it. It's like loads of growling and Roland like goes for him. He like goes into him.
Okay.
I don't think he actually does it. He didn't bite him or anything, but I think I'm there to pull him out of it because we're always in here with them. At the moment, I'm worried to leave them alone, just in case it does happen, because I know that Roland's in a bit of pain.
Yeah.
But when it has happened, I've got in there really quickly because I can see when it is happening because it's like weird. They do like this sort of like stiff-bodied like dance. So Pluto's ears go all the way back, and they're sort of really like robotic movements, and I can just see it when it's happening. And I'm watching it, and then it just turns horrible, and that's what happens. Yeah. Roland out of it.
Okay, so that kind of that stiff body language, that's kind of the tail's up as well.
Yeah.
So
I've got a video on my phone.
So
it looks a little bit like it's playing at first, but then I can see that it goes a bit beyond that.
Yeah. Okay. So it may just be that they're pushing each other's boundaries in terms of like who's the survival of the fittest, if you like. So I'm bigger than you, I'm harder than you, and I'm willing to take you on. And then if they're being challenged by the other one, then that's where that kind of tension happens. It's a little bit like brother and sister, a sibling rivalry. You know, when you kind of play fighting, and then one of you gets the other one too hard, and then the other one goes, right, well, I'm not having that, and then the other one then steps in, and then before you know, you've just got like a full-on fight going off. So what I would look at doing, if you think that they're going to behave in that way when you're not there, then the best thing you can do is prevent by having crated areas, gated areas, so that they are safe to be left. That's really the only thing that you can do if you're not there. Okay, if you are there, then as soon as they start having ears pinned back and things like that, chuck one of them outside. Okay, make sure that you alternate the one that's getting picked up and the one that's going outside as well, because we don't always want, it's not, even though you're watching it, it may not always be the one that you think is the one that's actually causing it. So sometimes with so say that Pluto's there literally giving him a hard eye stare, yeah, come on then, but not really moving and not really doing a lot, and then Roland's going, yeah, come on then, I'll take you on, and then he's the one that's snapping into it, and Pluto's going, got you. And then he's still keep going back in for it as well. But what we don't want to do is encourage that, or B, let it escalate. So intervene at the earliest point. So as soon as any of that type of behavior, so as soon as you notice any of that stiffening up, tails, ears, literally just separate them off. They need to go and chill out. You'll probably notice a lot of that body shaking because they'll calm down, and then bring them back in again. Likelihood is it's because they're two males. Maybe there might be a female in season around you somewhere within like a 4-mile radius. It's highly likely. That can change how they're kind of behaving with one another. And then obviously there's this element of pain with Roland as well.
I said that to you. I said when we were on the walk, Pluto was going mad, sniffing the floor, the particular area, and it was a couple of dogs that walked by and just wouldn't let it go. And I said, I think one of those dogs was in season. And I can't remember if it was that day he was a bit strangely behaved with Roland, but yeah, like I'm quite good at noticing or anticipating when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I say to you, don't I? He's going to start growling. I mean, I don't pick out Roland because I think he's causing the trouble, but it's just that he's bigger and easier to pick up than Pluto. Yeah. He's normally,
I'd say,
easier to just get.
I'd say, well, to me, it seems like Pluto's
He winds him
trying
up.
to play.
Yeah.
He does wind him up, but Pluto also doesn't mean for it to escalate, because he always wants to go straight back to him once something's happened. Even if Roland's growled at him, he kind of wants to go over and be like, I'm only joking, it's fine. But Roland gets a bit more pissed off for a bit longer, so it takes him a little while to accept it back again. But we say all this, they still love curling up together. 5 minutes later, they'll be wrapped around each other. So I'm not, especially now that Roland's more himself today, I don't think we're that worried today about leaving them by themselves for a bit longer.
I think it's that kind of that escalation. So it's the same if you're thinking about the stress level. So it's that same kind of escalation. So it goes up here where they're out of kind of control, if you like, but then they have to have time to come back down. So that's what I'm saying, just separate them, let them just have time apart, and then bring them back together nice and slowly. It might be that you just encourage them back together by getting them on a mat either side of the room, so that they can just see each other, but they don't have to do anything. They're not, Pluto's not coming straight back in and going, hey, how are you okay, and then it erupts straight away. So just giving them that time and space apart is always worthwhile. But if there is a female that's in season, then likelihood is it will send them a little bit nuts, and then that kind of becomes I know what this smell is, and I'm the one that wants to kind of reproduce, and you're not going to do that, so I'm just going to tell you straight away that you're not going to be doing that, and this is my place, not yours. So it can cause into family issues sometimes, but yeah, I mean, if it's kind of like a new thing, and especially because of the anal glands, I would be kind of linking that together and saying it's potentially some pain related. It's a little bit like, have you ever had like a bad shoulder or something, and everybody wants to tap you on that shoulder? It's that kind of thing. And obviously Pluto just wants to have a sniff and actually just find out what's wrong with him, and it's probably a little bit irritating for him, and that's why he's then having that snap back as well. Okay, so it sounds like you're doing really well. I'm really, really proud of the stuff that you're sending through, that you're posting into the community. I can see that there's clear progress that's happening. Obviously, having some change of your sleep and toileting habits, which is great. In terms of the door, how is that going? How's like the settling and the mat work and things like that going?
So the settling on the mat, Pluto has got it. He knows what to do. Poor Roland. He goes on the mat and he just looks at you with the big brown eyes. He doesn't know to look away. He's not very responsive to that. He just looks at you for ages, and then you end up having to put a treat on the floor and then praising him when he does look down. And we've been doing a lot of the door work, so doing the what's this and throwing the treats and walking down. I sometimes go down, unlock the door, open it, and it's normally Pluto that comes running to see what's what, not Roland. But having said that, in real life, when there's somebody who has done the doorbell, buzzed on the doorbell, posted something, the what's this doesn't work for Roland. He's just so amped up with trying to get down the corridor. And so it works in practice, but not in real life.
Yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So
he didn't care about the sprats either. Even a high value treat like a sprat, he didn't care. He just wants to get out.
Okay, and he's just trying to get to that door. Okay, so because he can't listen, same advice as last time, so making sure that kitchen living door is shut, so he cannot get to that front door. Have you managed to get out of the room that you're in, shut the door, and then go and open the living room at the front door? Is that what you've been doing?
That's what we have been doing.
Yeah, in the training.
Yeah.
But we haven't in practice. It doesn't go that way. Like even if it's both of us here, and initially neither of us go to open the door to try and get Roland thinking that we're not that keen to go and look at it straight away, we use the distraction technique. Roland kind of half takes to it, but as soon as either one of us turns around to start walking towards the door, even if we did have this attention to begin with, he's straight trying to get at it. And I think he makes less noise at the door now, but he still tries to scrabble for it and try and get through it. It might be, to be fair to him, he might be getting slightly better at it. in terms of his reaction and managing that a little bit more. But like you say,
It'll take
I think,
time.
yeah, it'll just take more practice.
Yeah, it does take time because he's had that amount of time to kind of practice it as well. So he's kind of unpicking what he knows, because he knows that he rewards himself for it. That's the difficult thing about it, because it's not in your control to kind of manage that, the reward that he's getting. That's why we're changing that to the other thing. So in terms of the what's this, you were saying what's this and then throwing the treats out, you say that works when there isn't anyone at the door. So in practice, that's working for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can close the door and unlock it.
Yeah.
And then, but I think Pluto doesn't normally start running until he actually hears the sound of the door opening or closing, and then that's when he leaves the treats alone if there are still some to get, and then goes and has a look down the corridor. It's not like he's sprinting to try and get out, but he immediately pricks his ears up at that noise and tries to go and see what's going on. So I suppose if we were in real life, if he was distracted and we could then get out, close the dividing door, then that's problem solved before he hears the noise of the front door opening. But yeah, I suppose it's just getting Roland to that point as well.
Yeah. Okay. So with the what's this game, you can play that outside now as well. So if they're really listening to that inside, I know we're using it for obviously the door distraction, but you can use that for your dogs that you're seeing as well. So what's this? As soon as they see a dog, literally don't wait for them to respond to the dog. What's this? And then you can give them the reward. And then what they've done is they've looked at the dog, and then they've looked at you to get that treat, and then you can just carry on walking. Okay, so you can kind of get rid of some of the watching. You can get rid of some of the, some of the kind of the boring stuff that you're going to be like, yeah, this is really, really boring now. We're taking 5 steps, we're asking you to look at us, and then we're carrying on walking. So you can just have more of a kind of a relaxed walk with them. And when something, it can be anything, literally, what's this? It can be nothing. What's this? And then just give them a treat, because then they've acknowledged you. Okay, so rather than the names, rather than watch me, rather than any of that, you can literally just start using, what's this? And then as soon as they look at you, they get the treat. Okay, so they can then use that in 2 ways. Once they're comfortable doing that, you will then start to see them look at a dog ahead of you and then check back in with you as if to go, whoa, what do you want me to do? And then you can congratulate them at that point. Yeah, well done. Sit if you want them to sit. Cross over the road if you want them to cross. Let's go. Cross over the road, whatever it is that you're doing with them. Just so there's it's a little bit added on to your walk inside, so that you can kind of make it a bit more relaxed for you as well. And that may help with that connection as well there. With Roland.
To be honest,
Pluto.
With Pluto, he was the one that was, well, we're both quite reactive to like kids on scooters and bikes and runners and things. And that they don't even bother with them anymore, do they?
On the whole, no, they're really good.
And that's like a huge success. And Pluto, he will look at you when they go by, like it's quite relaxed with them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the dogs that, we need to work on.
Yeah, and if it's the other dogs, then just stick to what's this for, start without any of the distractions there. So when there isn't anything, what's this? So it's just a game of what's this for them. And then when a dog comes into view, as soon as it comes into view, what's this? So they've seen it, and then their attention is back to you, and then just have a little game of what's this on the floor, and then carry on. Yeah.
And then sometimes with Pluto, he kind of, although the distraction often works with him, and he won't make a noise if we do that successfully and for the right time, like I was saying. He also sometimes, when it comes to walking past another dog, I do find that if I kind of just like every other step get him to watch, he's so focused on me, and he knows that he's doing the right thing, that actually we can kind of keep walking, although he tends to kind of start hopping when he can see that I've got another treat ready. We can kind of just go like that past the other dog and go right past doing that, and also be okay. So I don't know if you had any thoughts about, because sometimes with the distraction we do it from such a long way off that we're kind of sat there for quite a while, and I don't know if you had any ideas about kind of whether there's kind of something to help us get more towards the other one, or kind of just anything to kind of develop that a little bit, because especially with Pluto as well, he starts really like biting down onto your finger when you're trying to stop him from getting the whole treat, because he's just like, yeah, give it to me, I'm doing it, whatever, and he just like sinks his teeth into your finger to try and get whatever little crumb you're holding on to. So that's also a bit more difficult, because then he's like,
goes
he
through
tries
loads,
to take the whole
doesn't he?
piece, so you end up just giving him loads and loads, while sometimes we're sat there for, you know, like a minute at a time, because we're waiting for these people to come past, or there's a child that's, you know, just wandering around, whatever. So sometimes it does take quite a while. So I don't know what I'm trying to ask exactly, but just that I've noticed sometimes he can also do it without needing to stop. So I just don't know if there's something in between maybe that we can.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole purpose of the stop start is because it stops us fiddling around with stuff, so that if they're stopping in a position, then they don't really need to think of anything other than that treat that's right in front of them. So if we're walking with them and they're looking at us and you're getting that response, if he's focusing on you, yeah, good boy, that's great. To kind of move that on, so that are you asking me, when you're seeing something, to let that get a bit closer before he has all these rewards? Is that kind of the sort of question that you're asking?
So should we try to keep his focus a little bit more, and then kind of, if we notice him either through body language or because he might make one bark, should we then go down into the distraction technique? Because at the moment, I'd say our go-to is to do the distraction technique in between the legs as soon as we notice that they've seen the dog, and as soon as we've noticed the other dog coming towards us, which is, you know, sometimes we're talking about, I don't know, 20, 30 meters away, but they're still towards us. So
so what's the closest point that you've had another dog to you that they haven't responded?
Literally like coming up and sniffing them, and some of the ones that are off the lead.
The other day.
Yeah, so they can do it, but you do. So now we hold them both like through their collars, and then like stick the treat right in front of them. And sometimes it is a bit like force feeding him to stop him from barking, instead of like putting something in his mouth instead, because they're by no means like sat there calmly when we're doing this. Sometimes it is, and he's kind of sitting there waiting for the next treat because he kind of knows what we're doing. Other times it's kind of like he's snapping to try and get the treat out of your hand, to just kind of get it over with, because I feel like he gets a bit overwhelmed by the situation.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like some of the time you may be a little bit too close, and that's why he's kind of like doing that snapping, because he's like, I want the treat, give me the treat, and he's getting probably a little bit frustrated because he knows that there's a treat coming. With the treat, so remembering that we want them to do something, but nothing too technical. So either looking at us, so that's the good thing, holding the treat in front of their nose, almost like that, with kind of force feeding, that can sometimes have the opposite effect. Because if they're too worried about whatever it is and they can't take that treat, then the smell of that treat is then a trigger for that worrying dog. Okay, so be mindful of that. When we have got that treat, so in terms of distance wise, so I would probably put money on that across the road from you, so literally the width of a road is going to be quite a safe distance for you to practice at. Okay, now what I would look at doing is getting their attention, so looking at you however you want that to be, or literally just playing what's this. So what's this? As soon as you know they've seen that dog, and then I would push closer to the dog, but you're not going to be meeting face to face, so they're not having that kind of standoff, those eyes meeting one another that you can't see what's happening. Literally, you're looking to have that crossover of one goes one way, you go the other way. If there's a dog coming towards you, turn around, cross the road, go round it a little bit, like you were saying about the woman with was it a Shih Tzu that you said? Something similar. A little bit like that kind of scenario. So we're looking for them to maintain that calmness. So all you're looking to reward now is them being calm in any position. And if they give you that eye contact, take it and play in the what's this game. So just take it down a tiny little bit. So rather than kind of keep pushing them into busy situations and things like that, just take it back a little bit, so that they can then see them at a distance, you can play the game with them, and they can really understand what it is you're asking of them as well. Because it may be that sometimes they're just like, meh, don't know what this is, I'm just going to bark. And bearing in mind that sometimes they're going to be barking potentially because they may be a little bit excited, they may be a bit frustrated. So they like, my dog will sometimes bark as we walk up the driveway. If somebody walks straight across the drive at the same time that we leave the house, she'll let out a couple of barks. Okay, so we're not looking for our dogs to be silent. A couple of barks, I think we can probably all cope with. It's when it gets into that extreme, like continuous barking, and you're kind of like, oh my goodness me, what can I do here to actually stop this? So, am I right in thinking that that's kind of where you are?
Yeah,
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, we haven't actually had, I don't think, much continuous barking for
No.
quite a while. I think that is pretty much where we are. He does one or two maybe, but otherwise he's more open to us either carrying on walking past or
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is right actually.
So I would look at reducing the amount of distance so that the dogs are closer, but they're not too close. They're on top, so they're not. The good telltale sign is that if they're unable to take the treat, that dog is too close. If they're able to take the treat, then they're able to focus on you, so their brain is still functioning. So you've not gone right up to this top part here, you're kind of around this part here. So they can still focus, they can still listen to what you're actually saying, rather than like losing their minds a little bit and going, I feel like I need to do something and the best thing I know what to do is bark. But it's fine if our dogs bark a few times, that's not an issue. It's obviously when it goes into that string of kind of stiff body language and all the rest of the stuff that they were doing at the beginning. But yeah, so I would go with nice and slowly, reduce that distance down, be clear on what you want them to do as well. So if you want them to stop and sit, then ask them for a stop and sit. If you want them to sniff the ground, drop some treats on the ground. Okay, what's this? Drop a couple of treats on the floor for them to find. And then you could use the find it. So you could use you're not going to use necessarily the collar hold outside, but remember the impulse control game that we played? You can play that outside. So as soon as you've got those cue words inside, you can then start taking the games outside for them to actually play. And that's the whole purpose of doing them. They're not just random games that I'm giving you to play in the house. And you can start integrating them out on your walks as well. So there's a bit more entertainment. So thinking like of the purpose of a walk is that you and your dogs have a nice walk, that you're focusing on one another, you're paying attention to one another. You're not walking down the street on your phone, having a chat on your phone while your dogs are doing what they want to do, which lots of people do. And when we do that, we see dogs that then get very reactive because actually they don't know what we want them to do because there's no communication going off with them. So again, it's that kind of top loaded, like really every time they do something you like, you don't need to give them a physical reward every time. Okay, if they've done something superb, then you might drop them a few treats and say, yeah, congratulations, you hit the jackpot, you just walked past the dog. But they're at that level where they're not going to need a treat every time they look at you. They're not going to need a treat every few steps. They may need a treat every 20 steps, every 30 steps. And then you might do every 10 steps. So you might do, leave the house and there's quite a lot of treats happening so that they get into the swing of what is going off. And then your treats drop off. So it might be they don't get another treat until, for example, you get around the corner from your house. Those areas where they are likely to get triggered, the areas where experiences have happened before, where they kind of barked at before. And at that point, just say to them, look, watch, this way, sit, whatever it is that you want them to do, crouch down with them, give them a treat, drop a few treats on the floor, play a little game with them. What's this? Get that attention, that focus on you, and then carry on again. Okay.
Just said there about the experiences that they might have had on a walk. What came into my head then was there's a particular road, a really long road that we take them down, and they just constantly pull, and we have to get them back. They go off and they pull again, they get them back. But when we took them in the car to this park a couple of days ago, they were quite happy to walk on a loose lead because they don't really have much association with that place, do they? And what's going to happen and meeting other dogs because they've not been there that often. But I think we need to think about where we're actually taking them.
Yeah, I think there is when I can't remember if we've said to you or not, but they do tend to, like towards the end of the walk when we're around here, they know that they're nearly home and they do tend to try and pick up the pace of it. So that's probably a part of that as well, just taking them somewhere unfamiliar because then they're not 100% sure on where the walk's starting and ending.
And even sometimes if you do your walk back to front,
we do try and do that, but But I suppose, just trying to change up the route a little bit. But
it's difficult for us as humans as well, though, because as humans we get into a routine and we're creatures of habit, quite literally. So it's very difficult sometimes for us to actually extend that walk. So it might be that you just go to your normal park, but you take a mat with you so that you sit on the park and make yourself away from the busy stuff, and just sit down with a mat next to you and just practice some of that settling, practice some of that mat training. So you engage in their brains, but they're not having to deal with dogs in really close proximity to them. And having, playing what's this in the park when it's busy. Let them like experience different stuff in the park with you. And that should, again, over time, I mean, the increase that you've had is like changed massively since we first started working, and now you're kind of at that point where it's like, right, okay, we need to just let those dogs come a little bit closer to us, but we still need to be getting that same result. And if we're too predictable, so if you walk on the same side of that road every time you walk down it, then they know where they're going because they've smelt it before. So it may be that sometimes you just cross the road, so like zigzag the road on the way down, play a game, cross the road, play another game, cross the road back, so that it's all about making them realize that they don't know where they're going, even though that sounds like a really small thing to be doing, zigzagging across the road. It will put them off, and then they'll be like, oh, actually I need to focus on you and really think about what it is that I'm doing to actually get somewhere. I'm not really sure where we're going now, because normally we just walk down this one side of the road and that particular dog comes out at that house, and or whatever it is. And sometimes they can just be the smells and things like that get our dogs worked up a little bit, and then the first time they see a dog, then they just go bang. And that's why I was asking if there was anything particular, or anything like any pattern or anything specific in terms of their the responses that they are giving currently. But overall, I mean, it sounds like you're doing really well. I'm not, not being a negative Nelly about it. I'm just kind of saying that, like just thinking of the things that you can't see, and that will should have a different impact on them again. Okay, so in terms of where you're at with your training, so last time we looked at the door, we talked through going through the bedding, the overnight sleeping, toileting. So are you happy with the overnight toileting? That's kind of leveled off with a 1 degree change.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure what happens differently with them, whether it's Roland not waking up and waking him up or whatever it seems to be. But
working.
Yeah, that's working. So we're not going to question that. We've now got an evening walk as part of our routine, unless we know for sure that he's been within an hour or so of when we would be taking him out, or it's absolutely chucking it out. But they even if it is not great weather, they go so fast on their evening walk.
Oh my god!
Really, I feel like they're still walking, but if their legs are a blur, they just shoot off. And
struggle for us to keep up.
Yeah, and but they always seem pretty happy to be out doing their evening walk.
They understand that it's a walk to get them to do something, and that's it. It's just a quick one, and they come home.
They really get on with it. So that's pretty easy for us. There's more us just sat on the sofa thinking, oh, do I really need to go? But yeah, it's definitely worth it. So that's definitely a part of our routine now. So yeah, we're really happy with that.
Good stuff. Okay, and you've had 8 straight days with no mess?
Not 8 straight days, but 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
So
okay.
One of those for sure was when we didn't take him out, and they had a different blanket as well, because this is well, you may or may not be able to. What's the word? You might not have the same experience, but we find that they really chew through whatever blanket we give them. So we treat them as disposable items that get refreshed every few weeks, even sometimes. And it got to the point where they were getting stuck in some of the holes that were in some of them, and obviously that it has happened in the past. We've come down and found one of them a little bit stuck, so we just hate to wake up. Doesn't bear
carrying the blanket around like this.
So so we swapped the blanket for like a much thicker, unfamiliar one, and on that night, combined with the walk and the different blanket, that was when he had the most recent accident. And then the only other one before that, to be honest, I can't tell you for sure what we did differently on that day, but I have a feeling it wasn't our usual routine. So I think pretty much, well, every time we've stuck to the same kind of recipe has been successful with it.
Stick to that recipe then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So then that's what I was saying to you last time. There's loads of different things that you can change, but don't change everything at once, otherwise you won't know what it is that is working for you. But if that's working, stick with it. The change of blanket, that could be a little bit upsetting because it doesn't smell like them. It doesn't, it's not familiar to them. But ultimately, if it's a choice of being safe or having a new blanket, then have the new blanket. Have you changed the bedding at all? As in, not the actual blanket, did you change the bed at all? I know we discussed that. I don't know whether you did or not. Did you keep the bed as it is?
No, the beds actually with that with the blanket thing, it's not. I think that was probably because of the walk. Thinking about it, because we didn't take them out that evening. I can't remember why we didn't, but it might have been raining.
I think it was really raining.
But it is a blanket that they sleep on when they're in the lounge, so it's not completely unfamiliar.
It's not brand new. Okay.
It was probably more the walk, to be honest, because the blankets they've got now are only 2 days old, and we've had 2 nights without any mess in those as well.
Yeah, good stuff.
So yeah, I think it probably is either the temperature itself or the noise of the thermostat clicking on and off. One of the two things, whether it's Roland's not waking up so much or Pluto himself isn't. And then also he's demonstrating that in the morning he can hold it for a bit longer as well. So I feel like every day we get through not having any mess in the night, and then he kind of seems to, he can hold it from, well, yesterday, to be honest with you, I don't even know what time he did his last number 2 at. It must have been before 6 o'clock. He didn't do one on the evening walk, and we still woke up to no mess, and he still didn't need to go out until he'd been up for sort of half an hour, had his breakfast, and then maybe 15 minutes after breakfast, that was when he asked to go out. So he's been really, really good at that.
Yeah, that's good. It's definitely some improvement there.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that kind of every time we go for a night without any mess, he kind of reinforces to himself that actually he can hold it for that length of time, and he kind of, even if the circumstances did slightly change for him, he wouldn't necessarily feel like he needed to go in the night.
Yeah, and sometimes when they go through kind of like when they're going through like their adolescent stages, they can regress in certain areas. So I mean, they're kind of the top end of adolescence, but up until around kind of 14, even sometimes 18 months, you may still have that drop back of, oh, actually I've forgotten that I need to go to the toilet, or I've forgotten to be able to hold it. So sometimes just the smallest of things can help, but you sound like you're onto a good winner there, so stick with it and go with it. Okay. So the stuff I was going to look at with you today, I was going to look at something called middle. No, we've not done middle before, have we? No. So middle is about reassurance when you're out on your walks as well. So if there's something that is coming towards you, in effect you're protecting them with your legs, so they can come round you and sit in between your legs. You often see like collie dogs doing it. So collies will be in between the owner's legs and looking up at them like all like gooey-eyed. And then we've got Dachshunds. Here we go. Right, yeah, okay, they're not going to do that. Well, we can get them to do that, and it's just a bit of a reassuring one for them. So I was going to look at that with you. And I'm conscious about the visitors thing still. Okay, so I would like to practice some of the visitors stuff, and we're probably going to change it a little bit just so that they're very clear on what it is you want them to do as well. It may be that we need to either make it easier or need to make it more difficult, but give them something easier to do. But I'll get you to practice, and then we'll see where we are with that. So to start with, we're going to do middle or around or whatever you want to call it. Some people call it peekaboo, whatever you want to call it, you can call it. And in essence, it's just literally getting our dogs to come around our legs. So they'll be facing you, they'll come around your leg here, and they'll go between your feet, and then they'll look up to you who's looking down at them. Okay, and you can use that when you're out for reassurance. So you can use it after a recall if you want to. You can use it just to let somebody go past you. So rather than the crouching down, you can just get them to do that. But we need to be mindful that the dog isn't going to go come and sniff their bum while they're facing away. So it's kind of a scenario, making sure that it's the right scenario to be able to use it. Okay, and I think you guys are plenty switched on enough to be able to use it appropriately, rather than going, right, we're going to do that even though there's an off-lead dog coming over towards us. So like, take your time with it, but it is a nice one. It's a bit technical in terms of us moving our hands and where to mark and things like that, but it's, you know, we should be able to achieve it, and I have no doubt that Roland will be able to achieve it as well. So to start with, you just need 2 treats. So you need a treat in each hand. And then what we do is we guide our dogs round. So whichever handed you are, either left or right, makes no difference. So you guide your dogs round to the back of your knee. So if you're right-handed, to the back of your right knee. So your hand goes all the way around. And when your dogs get to that hand, just say yes. So just mark them, because they've done the right thing by coming around your back of your leg. And then with the hand that you've got in your left hand, put that between your legs and guide them through your legs. And then say yes and reward them. So we're not looking for them to sit to start with. We're literally just getting them to go round. Yes, between our legs. Yes, reward. Okay. Happy with that?
Yeah.
And let's have a practice then. Rachel's like that. Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
Easier said than done.
It's always easier when you're saying it rather than actually doing it.
But just while you're there, Peter,
Yeah.
There's a little long-haired girl called Peanut who lives just over on the other side of the estate, and we recommended you to, because we saw them out and about when we had the dogs and we were trying to train them. We saw her the other day. She said she'd signed up for your puppy class. I think she was on a waiting list or something, but she said.
Fantastic. Oh, maybe she's. What do you know what her name is?
The woman's name is.
I think her name's Claire.
Claire.
Some begins with P, maybe Paxson or
Dixon, maybe.
Dixon. Claire Dixon.
I don't have anyone yet, but it's not to say that they've not booked an appointment in that may be upcoming.
Yeah.
But no, thank you very much for that. No, much appreciated.
No, thank you.
She's so nervous, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a sweet girl. She's just quite timid.
Okay,
so you're going to be standing up. So are you right or left-handed?
Right-handed.
You're right-handed, so that makes it easier for me to be able to explain to you as well then. So with your right hand, you're literally going to guide Pluto round to the back of your right leg. Okay, so just stand a little bit wide. There we go. So when he comes around and gets that treat, yes, and reward him. Just say yes and reward him. And then with your left hand, just guide him from the back of your leg into between your feet.
Just stick your hand
between your legs. There we go.
Start again. I don't know if it's my trousers.
And then meet with your left hand. So nice and slowly. It might be easier if you meet your right and your left hand together, so that, if you know what I mean. So you've got one hand behind your leg and the other one is kind of meeting that hand, and then just guide him through.
So once you put your right hand behind him, he's got to let's take the treat, stick your left hand through your legs to meet the other.
And then get him to follow that treat through.
No.
Nice and slowly.
So now
yes, and then left hand. Let him see that left hand. Here he comes. Yes, and reward.
I don't think you could see because of my trousers.
Was it your trousers blocking his view?
He's a bit suspicious of the treats today.
Maybe he's suspicious of your trousers because they're flowy. Okay, so go one more with him, and this time when you bring him round with that left hand, I want you to just raise the treat slightly, so it's going to almost come up towards you, and then he should get into a sit position. As soon as he sits in between your feet, so facing the same direction as you, then you're just going to mark him yes and give that reward. Stand up straight. Oh, we just pushed him a little bit too much there.
the trousers are causing a bit of jiff. Is that right?
So we're looking for him to be facing the same way as you. So go again with him. So when he comes round, we're just going to mark him. So mark him between your feet again. So just take it back one step. So what you're looking for is that he faces the same direction as you, but he's sitting between your feet and you're facing that direction.
He's facing. Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's facing it with his back to you. Nice. Yes, reward him.
It's the trousers. I need to go change them. It's a bit
Okay.
sad.
Okay, no worries.
I'll try with the rollers. Do you want to put them in the hall?
Yeah.
I'll try with the rollers. Right. Right. Yes. Yes. Good boy.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Now nice and slowly as he comes through your feet. Reward him.
Good boy.
So as soon as he's in that right position, so as soon as he steps, his front 2 feet come through your feet,
Yeah.
yes, and then reward him, just so that he's in the right position, and then we can add that sit on afterwards.
Yes. Good boy.
That's the one. So he gets used to actually being in that position. And it can be a bit worrying for them because they're doing something really random.
Yes. Yes. Good boy.
So with your left hand, as he comes through, if you just keep your left hand quite close to him, so it's nice and slowly guide him through and then slowly guide him up so he goes into that sit. As soon as his nose goes up, yes, and reward. Nice and slowly round, yes, reward. Yes, reward. There we go. Okay, so now we're looking for him to just be slightly a little bit further back so that his bum is kind of, so his shoulders are parallel with your leg.
Yes.
Let him go around again. Say, oh, not this time.
Yes. Yes. Good boy.
Really nice.
Boy.
So I want you to repeat that a couple of times before we then start getting you to stand up straight as well.
Yes. Yes. Good boy. Yes. Yes. Good boy. Good.
Okay, so this time, Tom, you're not going to have a treat in your right hand. You're going to pretend you've got one in your hand.
Okay.
And you're going to guide him round. And as you guide him round, you're going to use your cue word. So whatever you want to use, so around, middle, peekaboo, and whatever you choose. Safe place, whatever you want to say. Just pick something that both you and Rachel are going to be able to remember and to say.
So I'm giving him that cue when he goes to the back of my knee.
Yeah, as soon as that hand starts guiding him round, and then you can say yes when he touches your hand, and then guide him through with your left hand into that sit. So pretend you've got that treat in that right hand.
Middle.
Okay, and the last part of it is getting you to stand up straight, otherwise you're going to get a super bad back doing that with him. And this is about just adding that distance on, so you can say yes to him and then you stand up
Middle.
and then reward him. That's you.
Ready?
Yes.
Nearly.
I think we might have been a bit short on a yes there.
Let's try once more.
Pretend you've got that treat.
Middle.
Yes. Yes.
Much nicer. So that yes is just telling him that he's precisely in the right place, okay? And then it gives you a chance to stand up nice and tall, and then you can give him his treat after that, okay? So that one, it will take a bit of practice, but they will get it.
Try again.
Do you want to go back again with Pluto? If you put your left hand down now, there we go. Yes, reward.
I think you need to
I think that left hand just needs to be a little bit faster.
put it down now.
Yes.
Really nice.
Yes. Good boy. Good boy. Yes.
Okay, so drop that first treat now. So you're going to pretend you've got that treat there and add your cue word in.
What's our word?
What did you go with, Tom? Middle?
Yeah.
Middle. Yes. Good boy.
And then just repeat that a couple more times and then we'll get you standing up nice and straight as well.
Middle. Yes. Good boy. Middle. Yes. Good.
Okay, so this time with the treat, to say yes to him when he's sitting between your feet and then just slowly stand up a little bit and then come back and reward him.
Middle. Yes. Good boy.
Really nice, really, really nice there.
Middle.
It might be a bit, just widen your feet slightly for him to come round.
7.
Go back round with him.
Middle. Yes. Yes.
Really, really nice. And it is a bit of a fun one, but it's also a really nice one to do with them as well. So we'll do one more with him.
Middle.
Bring that treat forward so he can see it a little bit.
Yes. Good boy.
Really nice. Okay, so let's see if they've got it to a proper degree now. So you're going to leave Pluto with Tom for a sec, and you're going to take a few steps back. You're going to call him to you, and as you call him, you're going to ask him for a middle to finish that. So it's slightly recalling him, but not from too far a distance. So literally just a few steps.
Pluto. 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 Middle. Yes, good boy.
Look at that.
Good boy.
And that's middle, perfected by you both. Okay, so nice, easy one. Keep practicing with it. I noticed that when you bring your hand around that you pointed your finger to the floor as well, that's fine. So that can be a nice cue for them to come round. So there's no treat in that hand, but middle indicates that they're going to come all the way round into between your feet and sit down. And then you can add on at the end that they look at you before they get that reward. I'm not going to push them too much today because it's the first time they've done it, but that is the final part of it, is that you say yes and then wait for them to look up at you, then they get the reward. Okay. So just breaking it down really nice and slowly for them. How was that for you guys?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. There's nice little game that you can play. You can play it while you're outside as well. Obviously, once they've got it inside, you can take it out with you and just practice with them again. It's a nice one that you can kind of show off a little bit with it as well, because once they get really comfortable, when you start moving forwards, they'll start moving forwards. If you start moving backwards, they'll start moving backwards with you. So they end up as kind of like dancing dogs, but they're not really. They're just following where you're going. There you go.
Our neighbour's going to be livid. He's already very jealous of our dog trainer. They tried with their golden retrievers. They've tried somewhere. I don't think they had much success. So they're just trotting past now and mostly ignoring their golden retrievers. They're very impressed.
Good. I'm glad to hear. That your estate have now gone from the potentially Asbo dogs to actually, oh my God, look at these dogs.
Shiny whispers though. Someone came up to us and they were like, "Oh, didn't you send them away on like training camp?" Like, no, they haven't been anywhere. We've been doing the training, but
I don't think people always believe that you can do it, and that's the thing. And the whole point is that I give you the tools and techniques for you to be able to implement them, and that's exactly what you're doing, and you're doing a great job at it as well. So the next thing we're going to look at, so with the middle, that's just one for you guys to practice as and when you want to, and you've just done it with a bit of distance there as well. So calling them to you, getting them to come around your leg. And you can do that if they're on long lines as well. So if you have got a long line, even if it's just one, that you have one on and then attach the one on to let one go and come back again. Be mindful if you're using that long line on a collar though, because we don't want collars and long lines. Very briefly, sorry, before we just move on, when we were talking about the car and the car journey, you said it was a bit different to what it normally is. How different are we talking? Because I know you've got some issues around the car, haven't you?
Got a new seat, so it's higher sides. They've not got much room to move about. Like they've got room to move, they can both sit in it. Pluto is still very squeaky in it, but it's not anywhere near as consistent as when he had the bigger bed and they could clamber on me and everything. They're very secure in it now. It's a bit higher sides. It's
maybe not what it was on the way there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So he wasn't silent by any means, but
to be honest, we didn't do the training, putting them in and all that. We just went for it.
Yeah, we didn't. Well, we kept saying that we needed to try and do putting them in the seat, but actually when we put them in the seat, they're not that fast. It's when we're actually on the move, and we were originally planning for Rach to sit in the front with me rather than sit next to him in the back, but we just felt because it was a new seat, we weren't 100% sure on how much room they had to move around, or didn't want them wrapping things around them. So Rach still sat next to them. But I think you'd agree that we could have definitely on the way home, Rose could have been in the front and it would have been absolutely fine. So I think next time we might try.
Yeah. So even if you just want to practice, getting them in and out of the car with you in the front, and then just periodically when they're quiet, just chuck a treat back to them. So they're like, oh, we get treats for being quiet, do we? And you don't have to be moving. You can just turn the engine on. So it's just running. And that's often it's the noise that will set them, but sometimes it is that motion as well. So depending on what it is that you figure out that is setting them off, but it sounds like you've got some good improvement there as well, which makes your life a bit easier, A, for driving, but B, for you sitting in the back with them as well, if that's what you're going to be carrying on doing. Okay.
Okay. Well, the new one's a lot better in terms of how much room they have to move. So there's very little chance of them wrapping anything around themselves now, and we did. I think like we talked about, they had collars on, but then we put their harnesses over them just for the actual journey. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's for the purposes of putting a harness on and clipping them into into something secure. It's so much worth it. It's so much more worth it than risking anything. Okay, so the car. I'll put the car saga to be continued. So training to be continued with that. Okay, and then looking at visitors again. So we're going to play the What's This game again, and I'm going to get you to do What's This, throw the treats out, And on the third time of doing that, you're going to go and stand behind the door. So you're going to close the door and you're just going to walk towards your front door and then come straight back again. Okay, so you're not going to open the front door. You're just going to then come back so they can hear the footsteps going to the front door, and then you're coming back and coming back in again. So you can either, one of you can stay in there if you want to, or you can both do it at the same time. It's up to you. Okay.
Should we be walking downstairs?
Yeah, sure. I've got any treats. I don't like them.
You're going to do the throwing and then walk out first.
Is it, Kate, is it the person who's walking to the door, are they the one throwing the treats?
Mhm.
Or does it not matter?
It doesn't really matter. Whoever's engaging in the game is going to be throwing the treats and then walking out of the door, closing the door behind you and walking to the front door, coming back again.
It's the third time I'm doing that one. I've got the treats. You start looking them up. What's this? What's this? That's a real life doorbell there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Keep going.
What's this? Roland.
Chuck Roland some treats there because he's not barking.
What's this? I don't think it's at the door.
I think it's at the
Don't get distracted.
What's this? Go on then.
Roland's like, there's someone at my door.
What's this? Roland. What's this? There's a treat there. Roland. Roland, what's this? Good boy. Do you want to go last one? Roland.
Engage Roland in that game. Go and stand in front of him, right in front of him. Stand at the door so he can't get out of that door. Let Tom out the other side. Oh,
Now he's gone.
okay. Go and get him. Bring him back in.
Tom, bring him back in. Tom's concerned that the people at the door are going to walk off, which is why.
Yeah, that's fine.
Roland.
And then we're just going to carry on playing. What's this? Straight away, even if you haven't got a treat in your hand. Is there someone at your door?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Tom's gone out and he's talking to her.
Look at their focus on you. Look at them both just trotting behind you. They're like, she's giving us loads of treats. Okay, so this time you're going to throw your treats and you're going to walk out of that door. Really nice. What's this? Throw your treats. Okay, so give me an idea, give me an indication. So when that doorbell went, there was no barking initially from either of them. And then as soon as Roland got to go running down the hallway, that's when he let out a couple of barks. Is that the extent of his barking? Is that where he's now at? Or what is it kind of better, worse, the same as?
It's actually normally a lot worse than that because we're trying to block people getting out and that winds them up even more. He's normally a lot louder than that, to be honest.
Yeah, a bit more bark than that, but he hasn't actually gone down the corridor for quite a while. So, sorry, that was just a really annoying conversation that I didn't want to have at that point. So it was annoying that I was in the middle of us trying to do the training as well. So
It's good for the training though.
Yeah.
He's normally he normally might bark a little bit like that, just at the door in here. But I think once we're out on the other side, the door's closed and he's on this side. He doesn't go on barking for ages. So it's probably the noise that you heard is probably similar-ish to what he might do at the moment if we're not getting anywhere with the distraction technique, and we kind of just try going straight out by blocking him from coming through, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So
the fact that it didn't bark at all, that was great.
yeah, it looks good, and it is about like not just going all in for it. So when the doorbell rings, our automatic reaction is to get up and go to the door. Now, you didn't do that straight away. You kind of gave him, her, whoever it was at the door, like literally a good few seconds to actually decide what you were going to do, and that was to continue saying what's this and carry on throwing the treats as if there was nothing that had just happened. So it's not, yeah, everyone just run to the front door, it's really exciting, there's going to be somebody there and we'll get all excited and start barking like crazies. It was very calm. It was very, very calm. It was a lot calmer than I was expecting, and I didn't even know the doorbell had gone off. So that kind of says that there's a change of that level of barking. Now, when you're playing that game, it's about them not being suspicious that you're playing that game to get out of the room.
Yeah.
So that's why I say play it a couple of times, and then on the third time go out. So we want to mix that up a little bit. So not every time on the third time, until you can get it to the point of saying, what's this? Throw the treats out, and then just go, and then come back when you're ready to. Because even when you left, neither of them barked. They had a sniff around the floor. I think there might have been a tiny little treat or something on the floor, and then you came back in one after the other before they'd even kind of had chance to go, oh yeah, there's someone at the door, we need to respond. Okay, so improvement wise, it looks like there is some improvement there. It's just going to be that element of consistency, and it's bred into us that when the doorbell goes, we all get up and go to the door. Yeah, so just slowing that.
Yeah, that's what I said that to Katie. I said, you just abandon it, you just going to the door.
Me under the bus, yeah. No, it's just at the moment because people leave stuff on the doorstep and then they wait to see you take it in. It's really annoying. I wish they'd just leave it there, walk on, and trust that we're going to take it. But they have to see you take it in now and get a picture of you with your door open or whatever. Otherwise, go and take it away again.
Yeah.
That's where a porch is always a good option. Okay, so are you happy to continue doing that game, like practicing that? So you don't have to be as long in between answering your door as what we were, but that will help because it breaks that cycle of doorbell goes, everyone runs to the doorbell, and we start being crazy at the front door. So it just takes out that middle stage. So doorbell goes, we continue playing, then somebody goes to the door, and everybody remains calm. Yeah. So it's just getting that circle all the way around. The other thing I'm going to look at doing with you is emergency stop. So we've not done emergency stop with you, have we? No. So they've got a recall, haven't they? So if you call them to you in the house, will they recall to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So the emergency stop is exactly what it says on the tin. We're getting them to stop in an emergency. So for you guys, this would be when that doorbell goes, if that middle door is open and they're charging down the corridor, hallway, whatever you want to call it, you're going to use your emergency stop then. Stop and then throw a treat at them. So emergency stop is a very simple principle that when you say stop, they stop in position and you collect them, not them come to you. So even if you're recalling, you stop them, they stop, and then you go and collect them. So you pop them onto a lead, you pop them, do whatever it is that you want to do with them, go and get them on a collar hold, direct them into a different place, whatever it is that your kind of ending result is. Now, when you're doing a recall, when we're doing an emergency stop, the main thing that we're looking at is accuracy in throwing. So it's a bit like a dart. So you're going to use your treats. So you're going to be standing up, you're going to be facing whichever dog you've got, and you're going to have your treat nice and high up here, because if you do use this outside, you want that hand to be nice and high. And if it's around here, you're not going to be able to see it into your clothing, or if you've got gloves on, it's just going to disappear. And at a distance, they're not going to see that because they're going to be looking here for it. So nice and high up, treat in your hand, between your finger and your thumb. You're going to call them to you. Pluto, Pluto, come, whatever it is that you say to him to get him to recall to you. And as he starts moving towards you, you're just literally going to shout, stop, really nice, loud and clear, stop, and then throw a treat. And the treat is going to land, you're aiming for his bum. So you're aiming for where his tail joins onto his backside. That's where you want that treat to land, because you want him to turn around to be able to get it. Okay, happy with that?
My
Let's find out.
here's your time to learn to throw. And you just literally, you can literally just be like that, so straight down. It doesn't have to be like you are looking for it to land in that position. But what I would say is the first 5 attempts are going to be all over the place, because you're going to have one this side, one that side, one somewhere else, probably one in front, one behind, and then the 5th or 6th one will land around about the right place. Okay. What are you saying, Tommy? You go first.
I'll go first. So who do you want? Roland or me?
You know who he's going to pick.
You take Roland.
Stop!
With that tone, yeah?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Ultimately, it's about an emergency situation.
Stop! Good boy. Good turn. Stop! Good boy. Good turn. Stop! Good boy.
So you might have to throw a treat at the other end of your kitchen to get away from him.
Roland. Roland. Your turn.
Good turn. Stop! Good boy. Stop!
Oh, you did stop.
Good boy. Stop! Sticky one. Blue turn. Stop! Good boy. Yeah.
Okay, swap over.
You got the goes.
Roland. 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 Stop. Good boy.
Nice.
Roland. Stop. Roland. Stop. Good boy.
Nice stop.
Roland. Stop.
Nice.
Good boy.
So just remember with that throw, if you just do it over, like with your hand up, nice and clear for him, and then deliver the treat. So stop and then throw it.
Stop. Good boy.
Really nice. Nice and clear as well.
Roland. Stop. Good boy.
Okay, so Rachel, what I want you to do is I want you to pick a place. So pick a point in the room that you're in where you want him to stop at. This is where it gets a bit tricky. So it could be like the line across. So if you look at your, I think you can probably see it. There's a line across from the edge of your kitchen. So just the other side of your bin where your cupboard is, there's a line there. Can you see it where the sunshine is? Like there's just a line that goes across. Yeah. So you're going to stand in your kitchen and you're going to call Roland from where he is currently, and you're going to get him to stop on that line or as close to that line as you can get him to. Can you see it? It's almost it's level, pretty much level with your bin, like just behind the bin. Beautiful.
He's nice. Roland.
Say stop and reward him.
Good boy.
Really nice. Last one.
Roland. Roland.
Nice.
A bit suspicious.
Because he's picked up, so he's stopping because he's like, well, you gave me a treat last time for stopping.
Good boy.
Really nice. Okay, happy with that?
Yeah.
Good stuff. So the way that's going to work for you, obviously both of them are doing it when they're being called towards you. So then it's just practicing. So when they're running away from you, stop, reward. Okay, so even when you're out on your walks, you can practice stop. Okay, so you can just practice it. It doesn't have to be massive amounts of distance. It can literally be, they're a couple of steps ahead of you, stop, throw a treat onto the floor. So it could be that you use stop or what's this when that other dog is present as well. Okay, so that their focus is on you because they're like, oh, it's that word again. Nice, easy, clear word. And how that's going to translate into the front door is that you're going to have a marking place at that front door. So you're going to have a threshold line for them. So I would personally have that threshold line as where your door is opened. Is there like, have you got like a, not carpet grip, but is there like some kind of line that changes? Yeah. So use that, and that's the place that they stop. Okay, so you can practice from the front door calling them and they stop on that line. Okay, stop, deliver the treat, and then if you're walking towards them, chances are they're going to move backwards, so then you'll be able to shut the door. Okay, so it's all about just practicing. So you've got a few things there that you can practice. So you've got the what's this, you've got the emergency stop, and you've got the middle as well now. Okay, happy with that? Yeah, happy with where you're going?
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, okay. Any questions before we go?
No.
How do you do it?
Say again.
No, well, it's just amazing that you've got so much knowledge about everything, and you can always add these extra little bits that, you know, we think we've got everything in the toolbox, and then you add more bits, and every time they respond to it like they will, and we might be a bit skeptical about some of the things you say sometimes. Rachel started laughing about the idea of throwing something at them, but
yeah. They're a lot calmer on the whole inside, and they're just happy dogs.
It's doing wonders for them, and how we feel when we're out and about with them, and even starting to get there inside the house a bit better as well. So no, we're really grateful. Thank you.
No, and it's your hard work. I'm just giving you the tools. You're putting them into practice. And with the with the tools and the techniques that you've got, there's always room for more, but sometimes you don't need more. But if there's little areas that there's still a little like humps and bumps in there, then actually let's try a different technique. Let's just move it around a little bit, because there's no one size fits all, and that's what we often get fed into, that trap of, dog training is dog training. But ultimately, if we don't know what the breed is and how they respond, then it's not going to work for every dog.
Is the goal to have them walk literally by our side on a loose lead, or is it okay if they're a little bit in front with a loose lead?
What would you prefer them to be doing?
By our side.
Okay.
They can walk in front on a loose lead as well.
Yeah, of course they can.
So is that okay?
Yeah, so if you think about, remember when we first did the loose lead walking, we spoke about the hula hoop, so the plastic hula hoop around your feet.
Really? I don't think we did that.
Did I not mention the hula hoop? So it's basically the circle around your feet. So imagine a plastic hula hoop around your feet, and that's the area that you want them to be hanging around in. Because if they're too far in front, they're going to think they need to take on the world themselves, which for reactivity, that's not a good place for them to be, because they're going to have to deal with what comes in front. If they're at the side of you, chances are they're going to let you take lead of that. If you want them walking at the side of you on the loose leads, then when they're in that position, as soon as they are alongside your foot, yes, reward. Okay, repetition is how they're going to learn, and making sure that you're consistent with it. So if it's every time you move your left foot forwards, they're alongside your left foot, yes, reward. Okay, so they get used to that movement of your foot moves, you say yes, they're in the right place. Okay, so, and again, to make sure that you're rewarding out of the same side. So whichever side you want them to be, reward them from that side, and look where your treat is being rewarded. So if you're leaning forwards to give them a reward, they're going to hang out there. If you bring your hand slightly back, so it's alongside your knee, that's where they're going to want to hang out. Okay. And ultimately, we're not looking for show dogs. I'm looking for you to have nice, calm walks with your pet dogs. But that would be how you would walk to heel. So walking to heel is literally, as soon as they're in that position, I use yes, good, nice. I use the marker words because they're easy. But if you want to change that for heel, you can do, as long as they're in that position. But if you're using yes, it just indicates to them that they're in the right place and they're going to get a reward soon enough. So it could be that you delay that reward after a period of time, and then they just start hanging around there, which they will do as long as it's been practiced. Yeah. Okay. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Keep messaging, keep sending your videos through, and yeah, keep progressing, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, no worries. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your middle training. Take care for now. Bye.